There's something uniquely terrifying about horror stories set in winter. The silence of snow, the isolation of empty forests, and the feeling that something might be watching from the darkness. Some of the most chilling horror movies draw inspiration from real folklore and disturbing legends. Tonight, we're exploring winter horror stories inspired by real myths and eerie historical events, and some of them might be far more unsettling than the movies themselves. The series The Haunting of Bly Manor tells the story of a young American au pair. She arrives at a massive English estate to care for two orphan children. At first, the manor seems peaceful, but soon she begins noticing strange things. Ghosts appear in the background of rooms, shadows move in the halls, and the spirits haunting the estate slowly lose their memories and even their faces. But what makes this story especially interesting is its literary origin. The series is based on an 1898 novella called The Turn of the Screw by Henry James. James was inspired by actual reports of hauntings at Hinton Ampner House in England. In the 1700s, witnesses documented unexplained footsteps echoing through empty corridors, doors slammed shut by themselves, and several residents reported seeing ghostly figures wandering the halls. Even centuries later, the idea of a haunted manor continues to captivate and terrify audiences. Next is a creature born from South American folklore. The Curse of La Patasola tells the story of campers hunted in the jungle by a mysterious entity, but the creature itself comes from a much older legend. In Colombian folklore, La Patasola, meaning the one-legged woman, is the spirit of a betrayed wife. She was caught in an affair by her husband. In a violent rage, he killed her lover and severed her leg before leaving her to die. Her spirit supposedly returned as a vengeful monster. Travelers claim she appears as a beautiful woman calling for help. But when men approach her, her true form is revealed. A horrifying creature with one leg, long claws, and a monstrous face. And according to the legend, those who follow her into the forest are never seen again. Some horror stories are not about ancient folklore. Instead, they explore something even more unsettling: family secrets. In Dark Awakening, a district attorney moves his family back to the rural town where he grew up. But the house hides a disturbing history. The ghosts of 9 children who died years earlier begin appearing. And slowly, the family discovers the spirits are connected to a tragic event from the past. Stories like this often tap into a common theme in horror: generational trauma. The idea that terrible events don't simply disappear, they linger. Sometimes through memories, sometimes through guilt, and sometimes through restless spirits. Penny Dreadful takes a different approach to horror. Instead of focusing on one monster, the series combines many: Dracula, Frankenstein, Dorian Gray, all existing together in a dark version of Victorian London. But the show's name actually comes from real history. In the 19th century, cheap horror pamphlets known as penny dreadfuls were extremely popular in Britain. They cost just a penny and were filled with sensational stories of murder, monsters, and supernatural terror. For many working-class readers, these pamphlets were their first introduction to horror fiction. And the exaggerated, gothic style of those stories still influences modern horror today. Unlike the supernatural stories on this list, I Know Where Lizzie Is explores a different kind of fear. The story follows the disappearance of a teenage girl. As the investigation unfolds, a psychic claims she knows where the girl is, but the situation becomes increasingly complicated. Because the truth behind missing person cases is often far more disturbing than fiction. This type of thriller taps into a very real fear: the idea that someone can simply vanish without explanation, and the desperate hope families hold onto when searching for answers. Finally, there's Beneath Us All. The story follows a lonely foster child who discovers an ancient creature hidden beneath the snowy woods near her home. Instead of fearing the monster, she forms a strange connection with it. The film uses the creature as a metaphor for buried pain and emotional neglect. A reminder that sometimes the scariest monsters aren't supernatural at all. Sometimes they represent the darkness we try to hide. From haunted manors and ancient jungle legends to creatures lurking beneath frozen forests, winter horror stories often draw from real myths and historical fears. Because isolation, silence, and darkness can make even the smallest mystery feel terrifying. And maybe that's why stories like these continue to haunt us. Because somewhere between folklore and reality, the line between myth and truth can become very thin.